The six-day war that broke the galaxy humanity's patience had finally snapped. Ambassador Lisa Morgan stood in the Grand Council chamber and felt her hands shake. She had been doing this job for 12 years now, and in all that time she had never lost her temper. Not once. Her friends back on Earth used to joke that she had ice water in her veins instead of blood. But today was different. The chamber was enormous, built to hold representatives from 47 different alien species. The ceiling stretched so high above that clouds sometimes formed near the top. Every species had their own section, arranged in circles that went up and up like an ancient amphitheater. The oldest species sat in the highest seats. The newest species sat at the bottom. Humanity sat in the lowest row. Lisa looked up at the Xanthir representative, a creature that looked like a walking mantis made of silver metal. Its voice came through the translation devices, cold and emotionless. "The incident with your medical vessel was unfortunate," the Xanthir said. "But these things happen in space. Your species is young. You must learn to accept loss." Lisa felt something crack inside her chest. Accept loss. They wanted her to accept the murder of 2,000 people. 2,000 humans who had been helping sick colonists, doctors, nurses, families, children. The Mercy Dawn was broadcasting medical immunity signals, Lisa said, keeping her voice steady. Every ship in the galaxy knows what those signals mean. You do not fire on medical vessels. That is galactic law. The Korvax representative, a being that looked like a floating jellyfish made of light, made a sound that the translator interpreted as laughter. Laws are for established species, it said. Your kind has been part of this council for only 73 years. That is nothing. My species has been traveling the stars for 12,000 years. We know how things work. You do not. Lisa turned to face the council speaker, an ancient being called a Vrel. It sat in the highest seat of all, its 4 eyes watching her with something that might have been amusement. "I am asking the council to investigate this attack," Lisa said. "I am asking for justice for my people." The Vrel speaker waved one of its 6 arms in a gesture that meant dismissal. "The council has reviewed the matter," it said. "We find no evidence of wrongdoing." The Xanthir acted within acceptable parameters. Your medical ship should not have been in that sector. The matter is closed. Lisa felt the eyes of every ambassador in the chamber on her. She knew what they were thinking. Humans were always complaining, always asking for special treatment, always thinking they deserved respect just because they had discovered faster than light travel. She had spent 12 years being patient. 12 years smiling and nodding when other species insulted humanity. 12 years watching her people be pushed around, their ships seized, their colonies claimed by others, their trade routes blockaded. And for what? So that these ancient species could pat humanity on the head and tell them to wait their turn. Lisa walked to the center of the chamber floor. This was against protocol. Junior ambassadors were supposed to stay in their assigned seats. But she did not care anymore. "For 73 years, she said, and her voice carried through the chamber without any electronic help. Humanity has been patient. We have followed your rules. We have respected your customs. We have asked politely for our rights." The chamber grew quiet. Even the species that had been chattering among themselves stopped to listen. "We have watched as the Xanthir blockaded our trade routes," Lisa continued. "The council told us to be patient. We watched as the Korvax seized our colony ships. The council told us to wait our turn. We watched as the Vrel claimed worlds we discovered. The council told us we were too young to understand." Her voice grew stronger with each word. "And now you tell us to accept the murder of 2,000 people. To accept that our doctors and nurses and children died because the Xanthir could not be bothered to check their targets. To accept that galactic law does not apply when humans are the victims." The Vrel speaker leaned forward in its high seat. "You forget your place, human," it said. "No," Lisa said. "You have forgotten yours. This council was supposed to bring justice to all species. Instead, it has become a club for the old and powerful to do whatever they want. You have forgotten that every species in this galaxy deserves respect. You have forgotten that laws mean nothing if they are not enforced equally." The Xanthir representative stood up, its metal body gleaming in the chamber lights. "Are you threatening the council?" it asked. Lisa looked up at all of them. The Xanthir, the Korvax, the Vrel, all of the ancient species that thought they owned the galaxy. "I am giving you a choice," she said. "You have 6 days. 6 standard galactic days to authorize a full investigation into the destruction of the Mercy Dawn. 6 days to agree to pay reparations to the families of those who died. 6 days to show humanity that this council still believes in justice. The chamber erupted in noise. Dozens of species all talking at once. Some were laughing. Some were angry. All of them were shocked that a human would dare to make demands. The Vrel speaker raised all 6 arms for silence. "And if we refuse?" it asked. Lisa met its 4 eyes without blinking. "Then humanity will take matters into our own hands," she said. Now the laughter was louder. The Korvax representative's light grew brighter with its amusement. "Your species controls 12 solar systems," it said. "You have perhaps 300 military vessels. What could you possibly do against empires that span thousands of worlds?" Lisa did not answer. She simply turned and walked toward the exit. Her assistant, a young man named Peter Shaw, hurried after her. "Ambassador, wait," he whispered. "Did you get authorization from Earth for that ultimatum?" Lisa kept walking. "Not yet," Peter looked terrified. "Then why did you—" "Because it needed to be said," Lisa told him. "For 73 years we have been good little children, doing what we were told. But children grow up eventually, and this council needs to learn that humanity is done asking for permission." They reached the docking bay where the human ship Defiant waited. Captain Daniel Harris met them at the airlock. He was a tall man with gray hair and tired eyes. He had been commanding diplomatic vessels for 15 years, and he looked like each year had aged him too. "I watched the council session," he said quietly. "The whole thing, and?" Lisa asked. Daniel handed her a data pad. "This came from Earth High Command while you were speaking." Lisa looked at the screen. The message was encrypted with the highest level security codes. It contained only 2 words: "Authorization granted." Lisa felt her heart beat faster. She looked at Daniel. "They knew," she said. "They knew I was going to snap." "They were waiting for it," Daniel nodded. "Earth has been preparing for this day since we first joined the galactic community. We tried patience. We tried diplomacy. We gave peace every possible chance." He paused. "Now we try something else. War," Lisa said quietly. "Justice," Daniel corrected. "We are not going to become conquerors. We are going to show this galaxy that humanity will not be pushed around anymore. We are going to prove that we belong here, not because we are old, but because we are strong enough to defend what is ours." Lisa looked back toward the council chamber. Through the windows, she could see the other ambassadors filing out, probably going to report to their governments about the crazy human who had dared to threaten the council. Let them laugh, she thought. Let them think humanity is weak and foolish. They would learn the truth soon enough. The 6 days were counting down, and the galaxy had no idea what was coming.
The 6-day war that broke the galaxy, humanity's patience, had finally snapped. Admiral Charles Bennett stood in the command center buried deep inside an asteroid in the outer belt of the Sol system.
The room was carved from solid rock and reinforced with metal that could survive a direct hit from a nuclear weapon. Screens covered every wall, showing data from across human space. He had been waiting for this moment for 23 years. "Status report," he said calmly. Commander Helen Brooks looked up from her console. "All fleets are in position, sir. The Xanthir have no idea we are here." Charles nodded. The Xanthir Collective thought they knew where all of humanity's military ships were. They had been watching Earth's shipyards for decades, counting every vessel that launched. They thought humanity had maybe 300 warships total. They were wrong. For 70 years, humanity had been building a second fleet. A secret fleet. While the Xanthir watched the obvious shipyards near Earth and Mars, humans had been constructing vessels in hidden locations throughout the asteroid belt. Hollowed-out asteroids became construction facilities. Small mining stations were actually military bases. Every time humanity discovered a new solar system, they built more hidden shipyards there too. The galaxy thought humanity was weak. That was exactly what Earth wanted them to think. "Sir, we are receiving confirmation from Captain Bailey," Helen said. "The Phantom's Edge is in position outside the Kelmar system." Charles smiled. The Kelmar system was home to the largest Xanthir shipyard in the galaxy. 47 military vessels were currently under construction there. By the end of today, that number would be 0. "Give Captain Bailey the green light," Charles said. "Operation First Light is go." Across human space, hidden fleets began to move. Captain Susan Bailey stood on the bridge of the Phantom's Edge and watched the Kelmar system on her main screen. The carrier was enormous, big enough to hold 200 fighter craft inside its belly, but right now it was completely invisible to Xanthir sensors. Human scientists had spent decades studying how the other species detected ships in space. They looked for engine heat, metal signatures, communication signals. So humanity built ships that ran cold, used materials that did not show up on scanners, and communicated through quantum links that could not be intercepted. The Xanthir had laughed when humans asked questions about their sensor technology. They had been happy to explain how their systems worked, thinking that primitive humanity was just trying to learn. They did not realize humanity was learning how to hide. "Take us in," Susan ordered, nice and slow. "Let's not wake them up too early." The Phantom's Edge drifted toward the shipyard like a ghost. Behind it, 19 more human warships followed, all of them invisible to the Xanthir defenders. Lieutenant Martin Cole sat in his fighter cockpit and felt his hands grip the controls. He had trained for this mission his entire adult life. He was 26 years old and had never seen real combat. None of his squadron had. Humanity had not fought a real war since joining the galactic community. That was about to change. "All pilots, this is Captain Bailey." The voice came through his helmet speakers. "We are 60 seconds from weapons range. Remember your training. Hit the targets fast and hard. No civilian structures. This is a military operation, and we will conduct ourselves with honor." Martin took a deep breath. Through his cockpit window he could see the Xanthir shipyard growing larger. It was beautiful in a way. All metal and lights floating in space. It was also responsible for building the warships that had killed human colonists for decades. 30 seconds, Bailey's voice said. "Launching in 3, 2, 1, launch." The belly of the Phantom's Edge opened like a flower, and 200 fighters poured out into space. Martin's fighter shot forward, acceleration pushing him back into his seat. Around him, the rest of his squadron formed up perfectly, just like they had practiced 10,000 times. The Xanthir shipyard began to wake up. Alarms started blaring. Defense turrets started tracking. Ships that were docked started trying to power up their engines. They were too slow. Martin's targeting computer locked onto a half-built warship. He pressed the trigger and kinetic rounds tore through the vessel's incomplete hull. The ship came apart like paper. All around the shipyard, human fighters swarmed like angry bees. The Xanthir had built their defenses to fight big ships shooting big weapons. They were not ready for small, fast fighters that darted around their turrets and hit weak points with surgical precision. Within 10 minutes, the shipyard was burning. Within 20 minutes, it was wreckage. Within 30 minutes, it was gone, and the Phantom's Edge and its fleet were already jumping to hyperspace, heading for the next target. The Xanthir Military Command Center on their homeworld received the first reports and did not believe them. The Kelmar shipyard could not be destroyed. It was too heavily defended. It must be a sensor error or a false alarm. Then reports started coming in from other systems. Human ships were hitting military bases across Xanthir space. Communication relays went dark. Supply depots exploded. Defense stations stopped responding. And strangest of all, the humans were not touching civilian targets. Every strike was purely military. Xanthir cities were untouched. Xanthir merchant ships were left alone. Even Xanthir colony worlds were ignored. The humans were not trying to conquer. They were trying to send a message. By the end of the first day, the Xanthir military had lost 30% of its operational capacity. 17 shipyards were destroyed. 43 military bases were smoking ruins. Over 200 warships had been eliminated, and the humans seemed to be everywhere at once. The Xanthir High Commander called an emergency meeting with his allies. The Korvax Empire sent their war minister. The Vrel Dominion sent their fleet admiral. Even the Threxian clans, who rarely got involved in other species conflicts, sent a representative. "This is impossible," the Xanthir High Commander said, his metal body clicking with agitation. "The humans have only 300 ships. How are they hitting us across 12 systems simultaneously?" The Vrel Admiral's 4 eyes blinked slowly. "Because they lied to us. They have been lying to us for decades. The humans have been building a fleet in secret while we were watching their decoy shipyards. How many ships do they actually have?" the Korvax War Minister asked. "Unknown," the Vrel Admiral admitted. "But based on the attack patterns, I estimate at least 2,000 combat vessels, possibly more." The room fell silent. "We must respond," the Xanthir High Commander finally said. If we do nothing, we look weak. Every species in the galaxy will think humans can attack us without consequences. Agreed, the Korvax War Minister said. We will contribute 500 ships to a joint fleet. The Vrel Dominion will send 800, the Admiral said. The Threxian representative, a being covered in crystalline spikes, spoke in a voice that sounded like breaking glass. The clans will commit 400 vessels. The humans must learn their place. The Xanthir High Commander did calculations in his enhanced brain. Combined, we will have over 3,000 warships, the largest fleet assembled in 500 years. The humans cannot stand against such force. Now where do we strike? The Korvax War Minister asked. Their border systems, the Vrel Admiral said. We crush their outlying colonies first. Show them the price of aggression. Then we offer them terms of surrender. The other leaders agreed. Messages went out across the galaxy. The great powers were uniting against the human threat. Fleets began to gather. Ambassador Lisa Morgan watched the reports coming in and felt sick. She had known this would happen. She had known that destroying Xanthir shipyards would provoke a response. But seeing 3,000 alien warships preparing to attack human colonies was different from knowing it intellectually. We killed a lot of them today, she said quietly to Captain Daniel Harris. Daniel nodded. We did, and more will die before this is over. That is the nature of war. Did we do the right thing? Lisa asked. Daniel was quiet for a long moment. Then he said, They destroyed the Mercy Dawn. They killed 2,000 of our people. When we asked for justice, they laughed at us. What else could we do? We could have walked away, Lisa said. We could have left the galactic community, gone back to our own little corner of space, and let them think they can murder humans without consequences. Daniel shook his head. No, we tried patience. We tried diplomacy. Those 2,000 people on the Mercy Dawn deserved better. Every human who has been pushed around by these ancient empires deserved better. Lisa looked at the star map showing the gathering alien fleets. They are going to hit us with everything they have. Yes, Daniel agreed. And that is exactly what Admiral Bennett is counting on. Lisa looked at him sharply. What do you mean? Daniel smiled, but there was no humor in it. You think Admiral Bennett spent 23 years building a secret fleet and did not plan for this exact scenario? The aliens are doing exactly what we want them to do. They are gathering all their ships in one place, committing all their forces to a single strategy. And then what? Lisa asked. And then we show them what humanity learned from studying military history, Daniel said. We show them what happens when an old empire that has not fought a real war in 1,000 years goes up against a species that spent its entire existence fighting itself. The 6-day war that broke the galaxy humanity's patience had finally snapped the Korvax first. Fleet dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Proxima system, expecting to find a small human colony defending itself with whatever ships it could spare. What they found instead was nothing. The system appeared empty. Fleet Commander Zefix, whose body was a swirling mass of glowing energy contained in a crystalline shell, studied the sensor readings with growing confusion. The human colony was there on the 4th planet. The orbital stations were broadcasting normally, but there were no military ships anywhere in the system. The humans fled, his second-in-command said with satisfaction. They knew they could not stand against us. Zefix was not so sure. In his 300 years of military service, he had learned that when something seemed too easy, it usually was. Full sensor sweep, he ordered. I want to know everything in this system down to the smallest piece of debris. The fleet's advanced sensors began scanning. They looked for engine signatures, metal concentrations, communication signals, anything that might indicate hidden ships. They found nothing because they were looking for the wrong things. Zefix made his decision. Take us in. Battle formation. All weapons charged. If this is a trap, we will be ready for it. The Korvax fleet moved forward, 800 ships in tight formation. They had fought together for decades. Their tactics had been perfected over centuries of warfare. No enemy had ever broken a Korvax battle formation, until today. The human ships did not decloak until they were already inside the Korvax formation. One moment, the Korvax fleet was alone in space. The next moment, 400 human warships appeared among them, having drifted into position while running completely cold and silent. Zefix had 1 second to realize he had made a terrible mistake. Then the shooting started. Human ships were smaller than Korvax vessels, but they were faster and more maneuverable. They darted through the Korvax formation like sharks through a school of fish. Their weapons tore into Korvax shields at close range, finding weak points that should not have existed. "Return fire," Zefix ordered, but his fleet was in chaos. Korvax battle doctrine was built around fighting at long range, using their superior shields to absorb enemy fire, while their heavy weapons pounded targets from a distance. But the humans were not playing by those rules. They were inside the formation, too close for long-range weapons to be effective, moving too fast for targeting computers to track, and their weapons cut through Korvax shields like they were made of paper. Zefix watched 3 of his heavy cruisers explode in the first minute of combat. He realized with horror that the humans had studied Korvax shield technology and designed weapons specifically to penetrate it. The shields that had protected his people for thousands of years were useless. "All ships scatter," he ordered. "Break formation and engage individually." But breaking formation only made things worse. The humans hunted in packs, 3 or 4 ships working together to isolate and destroy single Korvax vessels. They coordinated their attacks with a precision that suggested they were sharing information faster than should be possible. What Zefix did not know was that every human ship was connected through quantum communication links, sharing targeting data and tactical information in real time. The human fleet did not fight as individual ships. It fought as a single organism with hundreds of bodies. The Battle of Proxima lasted 6 hours. When it was over, the Korvax First Fleet had lost 500 ships. The humans had lost 47. Zefix's flagship was one of the few Korvax vessels that survived, and only because the humans let it. As his damaged ship limped away, he understood that humanity had sent him home on purpose. They wanted him to report what he had seen. They wanted the galaxy to know what happened when you fought humans on their terms. Across the galaxy, the Vrel Dominion was learning a similar lesson. Commander Ryan Foster led his Marine assault team through the corridors of the Vrel carrier Infinite Glory. The ship was huge, designed to hold 5,000 Vrel soldiers and 200 fighter craft. Its armor was thick enough to shrug off most weapons. Its internal defenses were supposed to be impenetrable. The Vrel had never considered that an enemy might board them. Ryan's team moved fast, their powered armor making them stronger and faster than any unaugmented being. They had trained for years in close-quarters combat, practicing in mock-ups of alien ships until they could navigate them blindfolded. The Vrel defenders were not prepared. They were used to fighting at range, using their superior numbers to overwhelm enemies. But in the narrow corridors of their own ship, numbers meant nothing. The Marines moved in tight formation, covering each other, advancing with a speed and coordination that the Vrel could not match. Bridge ahead, Ryan's tactical display showed him. His armor sensors could see through walls, tracking every Vrel soldier between him and his objective. "Breaching charges ready," one of his Marines reported. They placed the charges on the bridge door and stepped back. The explosion was precise, just strong enough to blow the door without damaging critical systems beyond. Ryan's team rushed through the smoke. The Vrel captain stood at his command station, all 4 of his eyes wide with shock. He had never seen humans up close before. He had certainly never expected to see them on his bridge. "I am Commander Ryan Foster of the Earth Defense Force," Ryan said, his translator converting his words to Vrel language. "This ship is now under human control. Order your crew to stand down and no one else needs to die." The Vrel captain looked at his dead guards, then at the humans in their intimidating armor. He made the only logical choice and gave the order to surrender. Across Vrel space, the same scene was repeated dozens of times. Human Marines boarded Vrel ships and captured them intact. They moved with a level of skill in ground combat that shocked the Vrel, who had not fought a boarding action in over 1,000 years. By the end of Day 2, humanity had captured 23 Vrel carriers, complete with their fighter complements and crews. They immediately put the captured ships to use, turning the Vrel's own vessels against them. The Threxian clans, watching these defeats, decided to show the younger species how war was really fought. Their ships were legendary, protected by shields that had never been breached. Their weapons could crack planets. They had been fighting and winning wars since before humanity discovered fire. Captain Andrew Cross, commanding the destroyer Swift Justice, watched the Threxian fleet approaching his position. 15 heavy cruisers, each one 3 times the size of his ship. Their shields glowed with enough power to light a small city. "Sir, their shield strength is off the scale," his tactical officer reported. "Our standard weapons will not penetrate," Andrew smiled. "Good thing we are not using standard weapons then. Load the kinetic penetrators." The galaxy's species had spent thousands of years developing energy weapons and energy shields. It was an arms race that had gone on for so long that everyone assumed it was the only way to fight. Energy weapons versus energy shields, with victory going to whoever had more power. Humanity had looked at this situation and asked a simple question. What if we just threw rocks really, really fast? The kinetic penetrators were not sophisticated. They were basically tungsten rods accelerated to a significant fraction of light speed. No guidance systems, no fancy technology, just mass and velocity. Physics did the rest. The first penetrator hit a Threxian cruiser's shield. The shield tried to dissipate the energy like it was designed to do. But kinetic weapons did not care about energy dissipation. They just kept going, punching through the shield like it was not there and then through the armor behind it. The Threxian cruiser broke in half. "Keep firing," Andrew ordered calmly. "One shot per target. Make them count." The Threxian fleet scattered in panic, their legendary shields useless against weapons that the galaxy had forgotten about centuries ago. The Swift Justice and her sister ships hunted them down one by one. By the end of Day 3, the galaxy's 3 greatest military powers had all been beaten. The Korvax had lost their fleet to superior tactics. The Vrel had lost their ships to boarding actions. The Threxians had lost because humanity fought in ways they had never imagined. And the war was not even half over. Ambassador Lisa Morgan stood in the communications center on Unity Prime, watching reports flood in from across the galaxy. Every major news network was covering the war. Every species was glued to their screens watching humanity do the impossible. "The Galactic Council has requested an emergency session," Peter Shaw told her. "They want to negotiate." Lisa shook her head. "Tell them we will talk on Day 6, not before. We gave them 6 days to do the right thing. They chose to fight instead. Now they get to live with that choice." "Ambassador, we are winning," Peter said quietly. "Maybe we have made our point. Maybe it is time to stop." Lisa turned to face him. "Have you seen the casualty reports? 300 human soldiers dead. 2,000 wounded. 5 ships destroyed. Those numbers will only grow as this continues." "Then why not stop?" Peter asked. "Because if we stop now, nothing changes," Lisa said. "The Xanthir will rebuild. The Korvax will want revenge. The Vrel will see this as a temporary setback. We have to win so completely, so totally, that no one ever thinks about attacking humanity again." The 6-day war that broke the galaxy humanity's patience had finally snapped. The alien armada gathered at the edge of human space was the largest military fleet assembled in galactic history. 2,000 warships from 6 different species, all united in one goal: crush humanity before they could become a permanent threat. Fleet Commander Varric of the Xanthir stood on his flagship's bridge and felt satisfaction pulse through his mechanical body. The humans had won some battles through trickery and surprise, but that was over now. The galaxy's great powers were united, and nothing could stand against them. "All fleets report ready," his communications officer announced. Varric looked at the tactical display. 2,000 ships arranged in perfect formation. Enough firepower to level a planet. More than enough to overwhelm whatever defenses the humans had prepared. "Set course for the Sol system," he ordered. "We end this war today." The Armada jumped to hyperspace, heading straight for Earth. On Earth, General Nathan Price stood in the Orbital Defense Command Center and watched the enemy fleet approaching. He was 67 years old, had been planning Earth's defenses for 30 years, and had been waiting for this moment his entire adult life. "Enemy fleet will drop out of hyperspace in 18 minutes, his tactical officer reported. "Projected entry point is near Jupiter's orbit." Nathan nodded. That was exactly where Earth's defense planners had predicted. The aliens were following standard military doctrine, entering the system far enough out to form up properly before advancing on the inner planets. Standard doctrine was predictable, and predictable enemies were easy to kill. "Wake up the belt," Nathan ordered. Across the asteroid belt, thousands of hidden weapons came online. What the aliens thought were simple mining operations were actually camouflaged military installations. What looked like communication satellites were actually targeting systems. What seemed like cargo stations were actually missile platforms. For 70 years, humanity had been fortifying the Sol system, turning every asteroid, every moon, every piece of orbital infrastructure into part of a massive defensive network. The aliens had watched Earth build all of this and assumed it was civilian infrastructure. They were about to learn how wrong they were. Lieutenant Kevin Grant sat at his communication station in the Lunar Command Center, buried 3 kilometers under the moon's surface. Around him, hundreds of officers monitored thousands of defense systems spread throughout the Sol system. "Sir, picking up hyperspace signatures," he reported. "The enemy fleet is arriving." On the main screen, Kevin watched 2,000 alien warships drop into normal space near Jupiter. They immediately began forming into attack formations, their ships arranging themselves with practiced precision. "Let them get organized," General Price's voice came through the command channel. "Let them think they have time." Kevin watched the alien fleet spend 10 minutes forming up. They arranged their ships by species, with the heavily armored Threxian cruisers in front, the fast Korvax vessels on the flanks, and the powerful Xanthir battleships in the center. It was a formation designed to overwhelm any defense through sheer firepower. "Enemy fleet is advancing," Kevin reported. "Speed steady. Formation tight." The alien armada began moving toward the inner system, confident in their superiority. They had numbers, they had power, they had experience fighting wars that humanity could not even imagine. What they did not have was any idea what they were flying into. "Activating outer defense grid," General Price ordered. The asteroid belt came alive. "Fleet Commander." Varric was watching his fleet's advance when his sensor officer shouted a warning. Suddenly, thousands of weapons signatures appeared on the scanners. The asteroids they had been passing were not asteroids at all, or at least not just asteroids. They were weapons platforms disguised and dormant until this moment. "Evasive action," Varric ordered, but it was too late. Railguns hidden in the asteroids opened fire, not the small railguns mounted on ships, but massive installations built into solid rock, using the asteroid's own mass as a firing platform. They accelerated tungsten penetrators to speeds that made them nearly impossible to dodge. The Threxian cruisers in the front of the formation took the first hits. Their legendary shields held for maybe 2 seconds before the kinetic rounds punched through. Ships that had survived 1,000 battles came apart like toys. "Return fire," Varric ordered. "Target those weapons platforms." The alien fleet opened up with everything they had. Energy beams and missiles lashed out at the asteroids. Some of the weapons platforms were destroyed. But for every one that went dark, 3 more activated. The humans had been building these defenses for decades, and they had built them in depth, and the asteroids were just the beginning. Captain Michelle Young commanded the civilian evacuation fleet operating near Mars. Her job was to get non-military personnel away from the combat zone. She watched the battle unfolding near Jupiter and felt her hands grip her command chair. "All civilian traffic is clear of the combat zone," her navigator reported. Michelle nodded. "Good. Now activate the Mars defense grid." What the aliens thought was a civilian orbital platform around Mars suddenly split open, revealing massive missile batteries. Space stations that appeared to be cargo facilities deployed weapons that had been hidden inside false walls. Even the orbital elevators connecting Mars to its moons turned out to have military applications, serving as anchors for defensive shields. The human approach to war was simple. If it was in space, it could probably be weaponized. The alien fleet pushed forward, taking heavy losses but still confident in their numbers. They had lost 200 ships to the asteroid defenses, but they still had 1,800. That was more than enough to overwhelm any remaining defenses. Then Jupiter's moons opened up. Europa, Ganymede, Callisto, and Io had all been colonized by humanity decades ago. The aliens knew this. What they did not know was that humans had hollowed out those moons and filled them with weapons. Thousands of fighters poured out of hidden hangar bays. Defense batteries that could have passed for mining equipment revealed their true nature. And from Earth's moon, the giants woke up. Captain Susan Bailey stood on the bridge of her carrier and felt the entire ship shake as it emerged from the lunar hangar. The Phantom's Edge had been big, but it was a scout carrier compared to these monsters. The Dreadnought-class vessels were each 5 kilometers long, built over 20 years in secret facilities inside the moon. There were 12 of them, and they were about to introduce the alien fleet to a new definition of firepower. All weapons charged, her tactical officer reported. Main cannons ready. Susan looked at the alien fleet on her screen. They were close now, having fought their way through the outer defenses. They had lost perhaps 500 ships, but they were still pressing forward, still confident they could win. Target the Xanthir flagship, Susan ordered. Let us show them what humanity can really build when we put our minds to it. The main cannon fired. It was not a beam or a projectile. It was a focused pulse of energy dense enough to warp space itself. The Xanthir flagship's shields did not even slow it down. The mighty battleship, which had survived battles with a dozen species, simply ceased to exist. Next target, Susan said calmly. The alien fleet broke. They had been confident when they arrived. They had been determined even as they pushed through the asteroid defenses. But watching 12 human dreadnoughts tear through their capital ships like paper was too much. The carefully maintained formation fell apart as ships began trying to retreat. All ships pursue, General Price ordered from Earth. No killing shots unless they resist. We want prisoners, not corpses. The human fleet, which had been falling back and drawing the aliens deeper into the Sol system, suddenly reversed course. The trap was sprung completely. The aliens found themselves caught between Earth's defense platforms ahead and the pursuing human fleet behind. Admiral Charles Bennett watched the battle from his command center and allowed himself a small smile. It was going exactly as planned. The aliens had committed their entire force to one attack, thinking they could overpower Earth's defenses through sheer numbers. They had not understood that Earth's defenses were not a line to be breached, but a web designed to trap and destroy anything that entered. Every part of the Sol system had been weaponized. Every moon, every asteroid, every orbital station had been built with defense in mind. And now the aliens were learning what it meant to attack a species that had spent its entire history fighting wars. By the end of Day 4, the battle was over. The alien armada had been destroyed. Some ships managed to escape, but most were either captured or destroyed. The Sol system was littered with debris from alien warships. Fleet Commander Varric, his flagship crippled and surrounded, gave the order to surrender. It was the most shameful moment of his long military career, but he saw no other choice. The humans had won. Ambassador Lisa Morgan received the surrender notification while she was in her quarters on Unity Prime. She had been unable to sleep, thinking about all the people dying in the Sol system. Now she read the report and felt tears on her face. It was over. Humanity had won, but the cost had been high. 2 human dreadnoughts were badly damaged. 17 smaller ships were destroyed. 800 human soldiers and crew members were dead. The 6-day war that broke the galaxy humanity's patience had finally snapped. The Galactic Council chamber was completely silent as Ambassador Lisa Morgan walked to the center floor. Every representative from every species was present, but unlike the last time she stood here, no one was laughing. No one was dismissive. They watched her with expressions that ranged from fear to respect to shame. 6 days ago, she had given them an ultimatum. 6 days ago, they had laughed at her. Now their fleets were destroyed, their military power broken, and humanity stood as the strongest force in the galaxy. Everyone was waiting to see what humanity would do with that power. Lisa reached the center of the chamber and stood in the same spot where she had made her demand 6 days earlier. She looked up at the Vrel speaker in his high seat, his 4 eyes watching her carefully. "The 6 days are over," Lisa said quietly. "Humanity made a promise. We told you we would take matters into our own hands if you refused to give us justice. We kept that promise." She paused, letting her words echo through the massive chamber. "In the past 6 days, humanity has fought against 6 major galactic powers. We have destroyed over 1,500 warships. We have captured 300 more. We have proven that we can defend ourselves and strike back against those who harm us." The representatives shifted uncomfortably in their seats. They all knew the numbers. They all knew how badly their fleets had been beaten. But, Lisa continued, and her voice grew stronger, proving we can fight was never the point. The point was showing you that humanity deserves respect, that our lives matter. That galactic law should apply equally to everyone, not just the old and powerful. She turned slowly, making eye contact with as many representatives as she could. "So now we come to the question everyone is asking. What does humanity want? What will we do with our victory?" On Earth, President Catherine Ward sat in her office and watched the council session on her screen. She had spent the last 5 days in constant meetings with advisors, military leaders, and representatives from every human colony. Everyone had opinions about what humanity should demand from the galaxy. Some wanted revenge. They wanted the species that had attacked them to be punished harshly, their worlds occupied, their governments replaced. Others wanted isolation. They wanted humanity to leave the galactic community entirely, return to human space, and never deal with aliens again. But Catherine had made her decision, and now Lisa was presenting it to the galaxy. She prayed they had chosen correctly. Lisa pulled out a datapad and looked at it. The terms had been written and rewritten dozens of times over the past day. Every word had been carefully chosen. Humanity demands the following, she said. First, all species involved in military action against humanity will pay reparations, not to make Earth rich, but to compensate the families of those who died and to rebuild what was destroyed. The Xanther Collective will pay for the destruction of the Mercy Dawn. Every family that lost someone on that medical ship will receive compensation. The Xanther representative stood up, his metal body gleaming. For a moment, Lisa thought he might object. Then he bowed his head. The Xanther accept this term, he said. We were wrong to fire on your medical vessel. We will pay for our mistake. Lisa felt surprise but did not show it. She continued. Second, the Galactic Council will be reformed. No longer will the oldest species hold all the power while younger species are ignored. Every species will have equal representation. Every voice will be heard. Decisions will be made through fair voting, not through the preferences of the elder races. This caused more reaction. Several of the oldest species began talking among themselves. The Vrel speaker raised his arms for silence. This is a significant change to galactic tradition, he said carefully. Tradition is not the same as justice, Lisa replied. Your traditions created a galaxy where might makes right, where the powerful can abuse the weak without consequences. Those traditions led to this war. If you want peace, those traditions must change. The Vrel speaker was quiet for a long moment. Then he said, the Vrel Dominion accepts this term. You are correct. Our traditions failed us all. Lisa felt her heart beat faster. They were actually listening. She continued with growing confidence. Third, we demand the establishment of galactic protection laws with real enforcement. No species will be allowed to attack civilian targets. No species will be allowed to seize another species' ships or colonies without justification. And most importantly, there will be consequences when these laws are broken. The Council will no longer be able to ignore aggression because it is politically convenient. Who will enforce these laws? The Korvax representative asked. Who will have the power to police the galaxy? We will, Lisa said simply. Humanity offers to establish a peacekeeping force, drawn from volunteers from all species who want to protect the innocent. We will train them, we will equip them, and we will lead them, not to conquer but to keep the peace. Captain Daniel Harris, watching from the Defiant, shook his head in amazement. Lisa was offering to turn Earth's military into a police force for the entire galaxy. It was ambitious. It was idealistic. It might even work. Fourth, Lisa continued, all human colonies and territories that were seized by other species will be returned immediately. No negotiations, no delays. What was taken from us will be given back. No one objected to this. They had lost the war. They had no grounds to keep stolen territory. And fifth, Lisa said, and now her voice grew softer, humanity offers peace. The chamber went completely silent. We could demand punishment, Lisa said. We could occupy your worlds, replace your governments, treat you the way you treated us. We have the power to do all of this, but we will not. She looked up at all of them, these alien species who had dismissed and attacked humanity. Instead, we offer you something the galaxy seems to have forgotten. We offer you mercy. Admiral Charles Bennett, watching from his command center, felt pride swell in his chest. This was why humanity deserved respect. Not because they could fight, but because they knew when to stop fighting. Lisa continued, all captured ships will be returned to their species, repaired at human expense. All prisoners of war will be released and sent home. Humanity will share its medical technology to help treat the wounded from both sides. The alien representative stared at her in disbelief. This was not how wars ended in the galaxy. The winner dominated the loser. That was how it had always been. Why? The Korvax representative asked. Why would you do this? Lisa smiled sadly. Because humanity knows what it is like to be weak. We remember being dismissed and ignored. We remember being afraid that the powerful would crush us and no one would care. We fought this war because we had to, but we will not become the bullies we opposed. She walked closer to the Korvax representatives section. We want a galaxy where every species is safe, where laws are enforced fairly, where the young and old, the powerful and weak all have the same rights. We cannot create that galaxy through conquest. We can only create it through cooperation. Elder Council Member Zirath, who had been silent throughout the session, finally spoke. He was older than any other being in the chamber, had served on the council for 300 years. I have seen many wars, he said, his ancient voice cracking with emotion. I have seen empires rise and fall. I have seen species conquer and be conquered. But I have never seen a victor offer mercy like this. He stood up, which was difficult for his aged body. The human ambassador is right. We, the elder species, grew corrupt. We forgot that power comes with responsibility. We forgot that justice must be blind to age and strength. We created a galaxy where might made right, and we told ourselves this was natural and good. He looked directly at Lisa. You have reminded us what we lost. You have shown us that a species can be strong without being cruel. That victory does not require vengeance. The humans are young, but they have taught us old ones a lesson we desperately needed to learn. One by one, the representatives stood. The Xanther, the Korvax, the Vrel, the Threxians, even the species that had not fought in the war stood up. They were not standing out of fear. They were standing out of respect. The Vrel speaker spoke for all of them. Humanity's terms are accepted, he said. All of them. The council will be reformed. The laws will be enforced. Your colonies will be returned. And we will work with you to build the galaxy you described. A galaxy of justice and equality. Lisa felt tears on her face but did not try to hide them. Thank you, she said simply. The war was over. Not just the fighting, but the real war. The war of ideas about how the galaxy should work, about who deserved respect and why. Humanity had won that war not through superior firepower, though they had proven they possessed it. They had won through superior values. They had shown the galaxy that there was a better way. 6 months later, a memorial was unveiled on Unity Prime. It was a simple black stone wall with names carved into it. Human names and alien names side by side, all those who had died in the 6-Day War. Lisa Morgan stood before the memorial with Captain Daniel Harris, Admiral Charles Bennett, and representatives from every species that had fought. Former enemies stood together, united now in peace. The inscription at the top of the memorial read, "They died so that all might live in peace. Let their sacrifice unite us, not divide us."